Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Spiritual Brujas Podcast. We're here with Marium and Corrine and I, Gabriella. So excited to be back and be nurturing this podcast with such an amazing guest. Marium, who I met through this apothecary store in San Mateo. It's called Mystic Flora. And she does all kinds of fun, interesting things. She is a palm reader. She also does tarot readings and astrology readings, right, Miriam?
Yeah.
She's going to kind of take us on a journey to just really get to know her and where all of this begun, what her journey has been like, and what she's navigated through to get to where she's at now.
Do I take it away?
Yes, it's all yours.
It's all mine. Stage is mine now. Okay. Well, hi everybody. My name is Marium Arcana. So I have been doing astrology. I've been studying it for about 9 years now. It's always been a part of my life though. My maternal great-grandfather, my great-grandfather, my mom's side, he was a Vedic astrologer, and he was also a professor at Punjab University in Lahore, Pakistan. And so he combined science, religion, and astrology all into one and taught it to college students. He also was known to be like this very great healer and helper with his community. And so I grew up hearing stories from my mom about how much of like a wonderful person he was and how helpful he was. She also told me that he predicted his own death using astrology and died exactly as he predicted it, which is kind of scary.
Wow.
That's not my method of astrology. I'm fine with not knowing how or when I die, at least not now. But he passed in 1964, so he was teaching between late 50s and early 60s before his passing. As for the palmistry, that's on my father's side. So he has a maternal uncle, or had one, who was known as, like, some would say a witch doctor, but others would say that he was a Sufi, which is a sect in Islam that's more tied to spirituality. And he would have very interesting spiritual downloads, and he would also like teach my dad like how to read palms and stuff. And my dad actually ended up doing palmistry on the side while he was in school to help pay for things. And then down the line, now that he's like, I don't know, in his 70s now, ever since I was little, between like early childhood up until now, he would have random people come in and be like, can you please read my palms? I'm so confused about my life right now. And he would just look at their hands and he would say something so outlandish that would shock the person so much, like, how did you know that? And then I'm like, how did you know that? I want to learn. And so my dad was like, fine, like whatever. Like he would always beat around the bush, but he would never like to read like my palms, my sisters, or my mom's, because he didn't want to know our fortune. He didn't want to have this knowledge of what would happen to us, because he would feel like he would either like mess with it or try to like rewrite it. And so he just refused to do it. So I did it on my own. And I got some books and I started practicing on my coworkers when I worked at a restaurant. It was so fun because I'm like, oh, so these lines mean this. And I would make like assumptions, but it wouldn't really be an assumption at the same time. Like I would hold a hand and I would feel heat in certain areas of the palms or the fingers. And I would hear this like random whisper and I'm like, do I say it? Fuck it. What would happen if I did? And so I would say the word, or I would say the phrase like, oh, hey, like, I think you should be careful about your heart. There's something going on in that area. Like, do you experience this? And they would look at me like they saw a ghost and they'd be like, how did you know? And I'm like, I don't know. It just feels really warm in this area, which is like where the heartline would be. I didn't know what the heartline was at first until I read about it. So I'm like, okay, so my intuition is guiding me in that direction. So that was like the background of how astrology and palmistry kind of came about.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Like even to just
It runs in your blood, right? Like it's just
it runs in your blood, right? In your family, and your.
That's so cool.
Coming from a family of intuitives is kind of hard because you can't hide shit from them. Like you can't sneak out, you know? I didn't have that stereotypical teenage life that I wanted to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine that would be a little different.
Totally. Do we go down the next questions or?
Yeah. So what, I guess, get into, if you can explain more or less, because, palmistry is new to a lot of people, or they may have not even,
Yeah.
or, so maybe just get into that and how does it work and how does it differ from astrology and kind of just explain.
Totally. So palmistry is also known as chiromancy, which is when you look at one's fortune or their future using like the lines on their palms. So there are different lines that signify different areas in your life on your palms. So like we have your heart line, your like lifeline, and your fortune, your luck, and like your head. And so I'm like putting my hand all the way up here, like you'll notice different lines are like thicker, but because the camera doesn't really show like the really small thin lines, it's like other things that kind of correspond to your decision making and whatnot. Let me see, what else did I write on my questionnaire? I also wrote down like, astrology and palmistry do have some bridges that connect. Because like, for example, you have your middle finger. This is where Saturn would be, like right here. And then you also have your ring finger, which is where Venus would be. And your ring finger is also where you wear your wedding ring. And then we also have Jupiter, which is under the pointer finger. And each knuckle or area of the finger represents different signs. So you'll notice on my middle finger right here, it's the astrology symbol of Aquarius. It is my sun sign, but then it's also a sign ruled by Saturn, which is the middle finger here. So there is a mix of elements as well as planets and signs in palmistry, but they also have their own respective forms of divination, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so astrology, that's more of like a study of like the planets and their patterns and how the transits can correspond to world events or historic events, but also one's individual life too. And so when you want to make it more personalized, you look at your left hand, which is like your inner life, the cards that were dealt to you. And then you look at your right hand, which is like how you dealt those cards, how you show that to the outer world. And so sometimes in astrology, you'll see in a chart what's like below the sky, which is Imam Kweli or IC line. And then you see your MC line, which is above the sky. So you can kind of look at it between your left and your right hand.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you have any questions so far?
It's pretty cool how the hand correlates with, I mean, I know more about astrology than I do palmistry, but I never knew that the hands correlate, with the astrology. So that's pretty interesting.
I know, isn't it?
I want to learn where my sign is now on my hands.
I would love to do that with you. I'm really excited that I have like your hands and pictures. I can look at them now.
I know we're gonna do my palm reading. I'm excited.
I wanted to touch on how I remember you telling me that one is like masculine and one is feminine, right? Like one side.
Yeah, so left side is more like feminine because it's like inner, it's receiving, right? And then you have your right side, which is masculine, it's like moving forward. It's also like the outward part of expression. So kind of like how like sexually it's like women, like feminine is like inwards, and then like masculine's like outwards, innie versus outie kind of thing.
That makes much sense.
Yeah. What else?
And even when it comes down to things in your body and when you feel things, I always pay attention to when I'm receiving messages in my energy, because it's either on your feminine or it's on your masculine, and then you can pay attention to that too, right?
Totally. Like, is your left ear ringing or is your right ear ringing, and what does it mean?
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I
that's
love that.
So one time I went to go do like the cupping, you know how they do cupping on your body?
Yeah.
And I noticed that like on my right side, I was getting a lot more, like the cups, suction cups were like, it was hurting a lot more than on my left side. And I noticed that. I was like, that's weird. Why is it like that? Why is one side more, than the other side? And I'm like, I asked the lady, I was like, do I have like more inflammation on my right side or my left side? I said, because I certainly felt it. I said, I felt like it was like the suction cups were sucking a lot more on one side than they weren't really sticking on the other side. They kept sliding off. And that's what she told me too. She's like, yeah, so one side is masculine and one side is feminine. And it looks like on your masculine side, you have a lot more inflammation than you do on your feminine. And I thought that was crazy.
Wow.
Crazy. She's like, which tells me that you spent a lot more of your time in your masculine, which makes absolutely all the sense, right?
Oh, totally. Especially in this society, it's
I
very
just
like
thought that was
masculine forward.
crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Your body knows. Your body knows. Yeah.
Uh,
What
the
was your takeaway with that, Gabby?
Well, that I do. I mean, I'm constantly, right, like I do it all. I'm constantly trying to figure out bills, trying to pay this, trying to pay that, trying to take the kids here, take the kids there, trying to organize schedules, trying to, make sure that kids are all signed up for their curricular activities, and trying to cook dinner, trying to prepare this, trying to prepare, like I just,
Yeah.
the laundry, the house.
Coordinated.
Yeah, it's like everything I do. Essentially a single mother, who does it all. So yeah, I spend so much of my time in my masculine, but for the last few months, I have really made it a priority to try and tune in more to my feminine, and I didn't really know how to do that. So I've just really been doing a lot of dancing on my own, like waking up in the mornings, putting on like some of the ecstatica music
I
for
love
my
it.
static dances, and just allow myself to I just close my eyes. I'm like, I don't want to look at myself doing it, but it feels really, really good and liberating. So the event we had on Saturday, that was something I wanted to do. So Isla was going to do the theta healing and I was going to do the EFT. And then at the end, I really wanted to incorporate some dancing for everyone to kind of, before they leave, to just release anything they need to release.
Ooh.
And several people were like, gosh, that felt so free and so liberating.
Oh, I love
There was
that.
one girl that hadn't danced in 10 years. 10
What?
years. Yeah.
I
Wow.
can't judge her. I've done that before.
And I'm just like, she's like, that just felt so free. Like, and the fact that you can close your eyes, you don't have to look if anybody else is looking at you or doing their, and a lot of people weren't. They were just, everybody had their eyes closed and were doing it. And so that's been part of my morning routine now, is just really do that. And I feel like that really helps me get in tune with my feminine, because I don't know what else to do to get in tune with my feminine
Oh,
when
Gabby,
my
I
whole
love
life
that.
revolves around doing this, doing that for everybody else.
That's
I
such
love
a
it.
beautiful way to do that.
Yeah, it is. I think it's perfect. I think like that is a perfect way for you to start your morning and to be in the flow. Because not only are you moving your body and you're doing, something good for your heart, but it's a good way to, awaken that feminine energy. And yeah, dancing is incredible. So
Yeah. And it's music that I don't even know what the fuck it says. Like it's
what
like
kind of
a lot of
music
Middle Eastern music, a lot of Indian music, like
Oh, I got you in that department.
one of my favorite ones that I start with is and I know we're getting a little off subject here, but it's chanting. I'm sure you guys have heard it. It's like Shanti, Shanti,
Yeah.
Shanti, oh. And you just do that over and over and over. And there's just something about that chanting that just vibrates through your body. And I mean, I've always had a big block in my throat chakra, so that I was told really helps to open up that. But
and it's your Kundalini energy, right? So that's really what it is you're moving, but then you're also using your voice, and that's really like activating too.
yeah,
So.
and that has just really helped a lot. But yeah, anyways, I was just bringing that up because she told me that about masculine and feminine, and I had no clue that was like really a thing. And then you told me when you were reading my palms, and I was like, oh shit, this is real.
Oh yeah, totally. It's so interesting when I look at like the left hand and the right hand and see like, okay, where are they similar and where are they clashing? And then you can kind of tell like I've noticed, so I actually took a really long hiatus from palm reading for like almost, oh God. The last palm reading I did before the holistic healing fair was, I think, in 2015. And so it wasn't, yeah. And it was
You were not doing palm reading that entire time?
barely. I was so like, I wasn't disconnected per se, but I had read the palms of someone who had passed a week after. And it spooked me to my core because when I looked at the person's hand, their lifeline was really short. And like I heard this voice in the back of my head, and it was like, when how earlier I was saying like you hear a whisper, you feel the heat in your palms. And instead of heat, I felt like ice. And I like heard like I'm laughing now because it's a coping mechanism. It's not actually funny. But I remember hearing like something along the lines of like, tell them to really be like, don't be impulsive. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And so I looked at him and I said, hey, try not to be impulsive. And a week later, unfortunately, he had committed suicide. So it was a very like spooky event for me. And I like cried a lot and was like, what did I do? And so I took a really long break from doing that because it was too intense.
Yeah, you right?
Yeah, I had felt very I felt very confused with how much energy that was and scared at the same time because it was something so powerful that I felt like I wasn't ready to harness.
Right.
And there was a lot of like real human feelings of guilt and like wondering like did I say it right? Should I have told him exactly what I was feeling? Like those kinds of questions went in the back of my mind. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to take a break. And so I didn't touch anyone's palms. Anyone who asked me for a reading, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm taking a break right now. Like, this is too much. And it wasn't until like earlier, either in January or December. It was one of the 2 months. I think it was January. Yeah, it was 3 weeks before the Holistic Healing Fair, which was like early January. And Isla,
Of this year?
of the event at Mystic Flora.
For the
No,
healing
I
I told you about.
when was it? When was the fair?
January 28th of this year.
Oh, this year. Okay. So
Yeah.
you really just started back again this year.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
And so earlier in January, 3 weeks before the event, I was hanging out at the shop with Isla, and I had mentioned in passing about a friend slash client who was like, yeah, I remember I used to come to you for palm readings, and that was like way back when I worked at the restaurant. And I was telling her about that, and Isla was like, hold on, wait, rewind. You do palm readings? And I was like, I used to. And she's like, can you read mine? And I was like, I had that little moment of like, can I do it? Like, I mean, it's been enough time since it happened. I think it's okay now. Like, you don't have to punish yourself. Just do it. And so I took her hands, and like, it's like no time had passed where I felt the heat and I felt the whispers. But this time it wasn't just in my head. It was like tingles down my spine kind of feeling. I was like, wait, I'm in my element right now. Let me do this. And so like whatever had come out, I would say it. And she's like, so why don't you do this as a service? And I was like, I don't know why I'm not doing it as a service. So the Holistic Healing Fair was actually the first day that I did it professionally.
That's awesome.
Deep. That's crazy. I feel like I would totally feel the same way. I'd be like, whoa, like, that would have shook me for sure. Wow, I didn't know that. I thought you had been doing palm reading this entire time.
I guess it's one of those things where it's like embedded.
Because when you look up like on the link tree or whatever, it has your guys' profile and it says what you guys do, and on there it says palm reading. So I just assumed that you were doing it the entire time.
No, I finally gained the courage to do it again, like
good for
outwardly
you.
instead of just with friends.
Good for
Yeah,
you.
no, that's awesome. And obviously you felt it, like you felt it throughout your whole body, so it's like you knew, like you're like you said, you're in your element. You knew this is where you're supposed to be. Enough time had passed. You said even to yourself that you felt guilty, and you were like going through whatever. So that's great. You listened to when timing was right for you,
Exactly.
That's what really matters, because we all need breaks in life, right? From whatever it is we're doing. And it's like giving ourselves that grace and having that awareness is really key, because we can't just keep going and going and going. And when things happen where it's traumatic or just something shifts or something happens where you need to go within and just retreat, that's okay, And it's like, that's where the magic really happens. And then that's when look at it on the other side. Now you have an amazing opportunity that you never would have even guessed you had, because you were reading palms in the restaurant before, which is great. But now you have a whole community of women in an actual brick and mortar building to be in. I mean, it's just amazing, so it's like when you truly listen to your intuition and yourself and your guidance, it's there for a reason. You gotta
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that reflection. I really appreciate that.
And I think that you're so lucky to be in a place like Mystic Flora, I think that
all you ladies.
Mystic Flora for me has just been like this galactic like opening.
A portal. It's a portal. It's a
Yeah,
portal.
portal. That's what I truly feel. Like the minute I stepped in there, I knew that that was just a place where I was gonna belong. And it was funny on my way over here from getting lunch right now, I was driving and I was listening to a podcast. And I don't know if you guys know who Danny Morel is. He's like a
Yeah.
or whatever. I was listening to his podcast and he was asking, he's like, you need to ask yourself these questions. And so I was like taking notes on the questions he had asked. And one of the questions was, what do you value? You know, like, what do you really value? You know, and I was thinking about that. I was like, what do I value? And the first thing that came to mind was connections. To me, that is something that I truly, truly value right now because didn't have it for so long. I mean, I had connections with people like Corrine or my family members, like my sister and my cousin, but nobody where I live. I knew that I had friends or connections with. I had nobody here where I live. It was just always me and my kids. You know, that was my life. Or I had to go to my cousin who's 2 hours away to go hang out with her. And now that I have it and I have you guys, I have that community, it just, I can't even explain like the joy I feel, you know?
Yeah.
Like
You
I
found
like
right. You found your
yeah,
people.
and I just feel so yeah, it's like connections. I feel accepted. I feel you know, like this calmness, this peace, you know, that I have a place to go when I am feeling a certain kind of way and there's going to be somebody that I can talk to who's totally going to understand where I'm coming from
Oh,
and
1000%.
has been where I have been, has
And
walked.
not look at you sideways or think you're
And
crazy.
right. And when I say I found a galactic gateway, they're not gonna be like, what the fuck is this girl on?
Right.
They're gonna be like, yeah,
Right.
I totally get it, right?
You know what's
Right.
interesting though? Is I remember you were talking about your astrology placements, Gabby, and I remember I think you have a 29-degree sun in Scorpio.
I should,
Also, were you a Sag rising or was it
yeah,
another right? Okay,
I
Sag
was,
rising.
yeah, I am a Sag.
Okay. So, and you have Aquarius moon?
Oh my gosh, how did you remember everything? I
Because
can
I think
never
in
remember this
astrology.
stuff. I could never, I've been told this so many times and I look at my chart so many times, but I don't ever remember what it means. So a sun in Scorpio, moon in Sagittarius,
Okay.
Capricorn rising,
Capricorn rising.
and Mercury in Scorpio, Venus in Sagittarius. I have a lot of Virgo, a
Why
lot.
did I think of Aquarius for some reason? That's so
So Aquarius
strange.
was my spouse.
Oh,
Yeah. Which is interesting because at Mystic Flora, there's a lot of Aquarius. A lot of women there, like I was an Aquarius.
Aquarius rising, yeah.
Yeah. Or
And then,
Aquarius, there's a lot of Aquarius themes. And
yes,
when we were at Tea and Tarot this Sunday, they were like, oh, Aquarius, Aquarius, Aquarius. And I was like, whoa. Like
yeah,
I thought Aquarius was like not someone that because I have such a bad association with it.
right. You know what's interesting is I wonder, okay, so when you're talking about values, I was thinking about the second house. And the second house in astrology is not just about your values, but your material possessions, what you find value in them.
Yeah.
And it can also be synonymous with both income and self-worth. Sometimes those things are synonymous. So that could explain, you know, the Cap rising, Aquarius second house. And so wanting to find that value and wanting to find that community, because Aquarius also rules over, you know, social circles. It also rules over the collective. And so when you think about it, I think right now Pluto is an Aquarius, so it would be kind of going towards your second house in whole house signs, unless you do Placidus system, which I do. But when you look at it, having that importance on that, on community and how you value it and how you feel like, okay, I actually belong here, like that that in itself was very Aquarian to me. I think that's why I was wondering where Aquarius was in your chart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just crazy that, and to think back to like the things I used to value before, just so opposite of what I mean, of course we value money, but it's not at the top of my list,
Right.
I truly believe that when you are in alignment and you are doing your soul's purpose and you are working or you are following your passion, and you are being of service to others,
That Virgo.
the money will come. The money will come later. It's not something that you have to focus on, because I believe that when you focus on money solely first, that is
Yeah.
based in fear. That is,
Yeah.
Agreed.
and anything based in fear is going to lead you down the wrong path.
Well,
Because
you're vibrating at a lower
right,
frequency.
that's what you're going to be vibrating. You're going to be vibrating from fear. So that's what you're going to attract.
Anybody
Or if
good.
if you're attracting, how can I help? How can I give? How can I be of service? That's what you're going to attract,
That makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. It's also very interesting you mentioned like, operating from like fear. It's very much like a not self theme for human design, where if you're a generator, your authority is sacral or emotional. I'm a sacral being. So I have to feel my way through things. If my body is saying no, or even if there's a hesitation, it's a no. And unless I'm getting that full bodied yes, and it's like yes. But my not self theme is frustration. So if I'm operating and responding from frustration, I'm not operating from that sacral, like, yes, I want to do this. Because it's like, if you're not doing what you love, then it's like, you feel yourself becoming numb, and you feel yourself kind of like not being aligned with yourself. And that's sort of how I was feeling when I was not doing palmistry or like any astrology for a bit too, because I shut off all spiritual things. And it felt yeah, I shut off a lot of spiritual things for that time period,
not
because I
just
didn't
palmistry.
not just palmistry.
Oh,
But I was still quietly like studying without talking about it to people, which was really hard because I love talking and I love connecting with my friends about all of these things. If you see how me and my close astrology friends communicate, you'd think that we're speaking a completely different language.
Right. Yeah.
Like the kind of conversations Isla and I have too, like we talk about squares and aspects and transits, and like whenever there's a huge shift, like when Pluto entered Aquarius, like the first thing I texted to her was, did you feel the shift? And it's like when you're connected to that, like you feel it.
yeah.
And so it's like those are the things that really matter in terms of doing what I love and connecting and being aligned with that.
Absolutely. Are you a generator?
I am.
I'm also a generator.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and I also like that's how I'm guided, is by feeling. Like if I get a feeling and I'm not like, we have plans or something and I'm not like feeling like, okay, let's do this, like a fuck yeah, then I'm not doing it.
Exactly.
So, it's a hell no, then I'm not doing it. So I really, and I'm working on this last year. I've been working a lot in trusting that feeling, because for so much time, so long we operate from up here, everything's what but our mind plays tricks on us. We can't
Oh my
allow
God.
it to make all the decisions, right? We have to allow ourselves to sink in and go deep and ask our body, like, what do you think about this? Because our body's not going to guide us
Absolutely.
in the wrong directions. They're going to let us know, like, oh, this doesn't feel good, even when it comes to food. I'm just like, I did make this for dinner, but I don't really feel like eating it, and I just won't eat dinner. I'm like, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like appetizing to me, so I'm not going to do it, because I've learned. So I love using the story. I know, Corrine, you've already heard it. I was in North Carolina, and my sister lives over there with her husband and her family. And I had stopped drinking coffee. The first thing, so I see Isla regularly, and the first thing she told me is, you have to stop drinking coffee first thing in the morning. And that was
a call
the
out for me
hardest
too.
thing. That was the hardest thing I was ever had to do. Like, that's the first thing I do, is like search for a mug, pour the coffee and drink. And then I'm like, okay, now I have a smile on my face. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it. So I did it, and I had been not drinking coffee for like 3 weeks when I went over there. And I got up and I was gonna make my tea, and my brother-in-law has this like fancy espresso machine, and he's like, I made you, what did he say? Golden Eagle or something from what's it? Not Dunkin' Donuts. It's Bros, Dutch
Oh,
Bros.
Dutch Bros.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, I made you. He's like, it tastes just like it. It's so good. And I was like thinking to myself, oh shit, but I wasn't gonna drink coffee. I was just gonna have tea, you know? I was like, I really don't want to drink it, but he had already made it, and I was like,
Mm.
whatever, I'm gonna drink it. I don't want him to feel bad, you know? So I drank it. I didn't even finish it. I probably drank a little bit less than half, and I got such a nauseous feeling all day long. I was nauseous. And I remember telling my sister, you know, I've been really practicing on listening to my body and letting it guide me. I said, and this morning I was going to drink some mint tea, and Armando poured me coffee that he made, the fancy one. I said, and I didn't want it to go to waste, so I drank it. I said, and all day long I've been nauseous. And I really sat with myself and I was like, that is incredible. Like the signal to let me know, like when you do not listen to me, I'm gonna make it known.
Oh my
I'm
God, I
gonna
like
make,
felt
You're gonna
something
make it
here when you were
miserable.
telling us that.
yeah, because you know what? You felt that because I was getting heartburn too
That's what I
from
was
coffee.
feeling. I was like
Yeah,
between the heart and like up to like
yeah,
the throat area.
I kept like coming up and I would get so nauseous.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's not fun.
ever since then, I'm like, ooh, no more coffee for me. No more
Yeah,
coffee.
just tuning in and listening, like
Yeah, and just really and waking up in the morning with gratitude, sitting for a meditation, and that dancing really helps me tune in to like, okay, what are we gonna wear? What are we gonna eat? What do we want to put in our body? So you're right. It's that generator, you know, in us that really that's a really, really strong feeling. And I've even been told in my design, something I remember was that there is somewhat of a psychic ability in there with my design, and if I really work on tuning in and listening and trusting my gut, then I will be able to tap that feeling will get stronger and stronger and stronger, which will,
Ooh. Sounds like
and
you're a sacral being, like you have sacral authority.
I
Because
don't know.
your sacral authority is also synonymous with like listening to your gut, which
Yeah,
is your intuition. It'll never fail you.
I know that area down there was very defined.
Mm-hmm. Mine
Um,
too.
very defined.
Oh, that's so interesting. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So
gotta,
anyway,
gotta listen. That's definitely important.
yeah, it doesn't matter what design you are, right? You have to listen to,
Totally.
they're always, your body's always going to guide you
Always.
to the on the right path. So anyhow, so can you give us a glimpse into like what a typical reading is like for astrology or even tarot reading or whatever it is? What happens on your side, and then what happens when you meet?
Oh my God, I'm so glad that you asked that question because for the longest time, I couldn't figure out how to make it like organized. And only recently did I finally like get it down. So I have a Virgo MC in my chart, so I have to be very meticulous about how I get things done. So on my end, it's like a bunch of different calculations. All you need to give me is a week. So I'll have like on my Calendly option, like, um, you'll book a session with me a week from today's date. And you give me your date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth for astrology readings. And there is an option where you tell me which area of your life that you want to know about the most. If you have any challenges or issues or confusions about, we will look over it together because every part of your chart shows like different areas of your life can be shown in your chart depending on the houses and the aspects. So, for example, I have a client who wants to know about their love life. And so I, they give me their birth information. I cast their chart. I open a Google Doc and then I put it there. And so I write down like, okay, these are the sections in your chart that are about your love life. And these are the challenges. And here are the solutions to that. Sometimes what I will find is not going to be nice or it's not going to be delivered very well. So If your feelings are hurt, I sincerely apologize, but you asked for my help.
You're right. Yeah.
Get ready.
Life of a projector, I know that all too well. Yes.
Oh my God, I love projectors.
Yes.
It's so funny because it's like you asked, so I'm here to tell you. And it's like, listen, I'll try to be nice about it. Virgo placements, especially if you have like a Virgo midheaven, I also have my Chiron in Virgo and my lot of fortune in Virgo. So being of service, as painful as it is, it's also just as rewarding. And so, and I don't mean painful in the sense of like it hurts me to help someone. It hurts me to hurt someone. I don't like to hurt someone's feelings, but if I have to help you and doing so, that means like your feelings are going to get hurt. I'm going to be like, hey, listen, this is not a comfortable topic, but let's look at this together. There's some static. Let's both put our hands in there. I'll guide you, and then we'll pull out the problem, and then we'll focus on it and say, okay, this is the issue. Let's say the issue is you're too picky, or you're too like judgmental, or there's something about like you're not having any boundaries. These are some issues that we can look at so that we can reframe that, or we can like kind of rewrite it, if you will. And so this is how we work on the love life. We look at the 7th house, the 8th house, the 5th house, because it's flirtatiousness too. And we look at the chemistry between the other people if you wanted to do compatibility. That's like my astro chat and just overall birth chart readings. I also do compatibility readings too. I prefer to do compatibility readings with defined couples, not just you and your crush, because that's kind of awkward. Like, do they know that you like them? Do they know that you guys are into each other? Like,
right. Do they know you're having this reading?
Do they consent to this?
Me and Chris Hemsworth.
No, those are fun. I also like to include like a transit as well. Like if there are any upcoming transits that like, you know, might be helpful for their situation. Especially when it comes to like work or like the angular houses, 1st house, 4th house, 7th house, and 10th. And then the other houses too are also very important. Different quadrants have different like meanings behind them. So I like to look at those areas respectively and help them out there. But yeah, it's such a fun process for me because I'm thinking in like planets and transits and numbers, but I'm looking at it through like, we just have a conversation. We talk about like, oh, like for the example that I had about the love life, it's like, you know, I've been single my whole life. I'm at this age now, and I just don't know when it's going to happen for me. And so I look at their chart and I notice, oh, well, you have your Venus in Virgo and it's retrograde, but it's in like this house. So it's like, let's talk about it. Retrograde Venus is kind of like, it's not like you're doomed. There's no such thing as being doomed, but there is like a challenge that comes with it. And that's like, okay, well, Venus retrograde folks like might have a little bit of a challenge in addressing their relationships, and it takes a little longer. Venus in Virgo is also like, they say certain astrology terminology is like Venus falls in Virgo, which means that it's not comfortable in it. Because, you know, Venus likes to have fun. Like you think of Venus and Pisces folks, they're all about like the beautiful fantasy world, but also like living and swimming in that fun. Pisces opposite sign is Virgo. And so Virgo is like, no, let's be practical about it. Like, I know you want to have fun, but like, you only have an hour. Like, let's get it. Let's chop, you know? And so what we could do with that is like, how do we find a balance? How do we work through these challenges and make this relationship actually like not like, let's not make your partner hate you, and let's not date somebody who is like, you know, wanting to be showered with gifts. Let's not date somebody who is expecting you to do something that you're totally not, but it is a mutable energy where it's like, I want to be of service to you. How do I be of service to you and help you? But how do I work on my communication about it? Those kinds of things.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love that you feel that. So I know you're going to get into your palmistry more about how that is, and then you're going to get into my hands. So you want to start that and kind of dig into that?
Sure. So in terms of palmistry, what am I writing about? Because I'm looking at the questions and I'm like, what did I miss? So for like what a typical palm reading or session would be is first what I like to look at is your left hand. And so based off the picture that you showed me, we could do, I could kind of guide you as I'm doing the reading and how the session goes, because this kind of feels like a beta session.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at your palm and in the picture that you sent me. And so I noticed that your pointer finger or your index finger is longer than your middle finger or your ring finger.
My pointer finger on my left hand?
Yeah.
Yes.
And also on your right too, I've noticed. A little bit.
Is that not normal?
It's actually it is not, it's not that it's not normal. It's the meaning behind that is like I've noticed that folks who have their pointer finger longer than their ring finger is that they actually have a stronger direction. And so it's like they know like what they want is what they want. And sometimes to some, I'm not saying that it's for that it's true or not. To some it might seem that you could be bossy or that you could be someone who's like, no, it's my way or the highway, and that's not always the case. I'm
a Taurus, so I'm very stubborn. Yes.
Say less. So like having that like, okay, listen, it everything, I'm going with the flow as long as I'm in control of the flow. Right?
Yeah.
Another thing, actually, let me try to look at it from my phone so I can zoom on it better. So another thing that I've noticed, this is your left hand. Okay, so I'm noticing that there's like a lot of like branched off lines in between the main ones. And so that, just from looking at it, I'm wondering like how much, even though you have a very direct way of like wanting things to go a certain way, what you say outwardly could be clashed with what's inward. Because inward, it's like you're thinking in all of these different directions. And it's like, well, this is what I want, but this is what I'm hearing, and this is what I'm feeling. And this is kind of like, oh, should it be this way? Should it be that way? No, I want it to be this way and this way only. I want to be comfortable, but I need to step out of my comfort zone too. You know what? Let me just go with my comfort zone for now. But then I'm noticing on your left hand, there's also a lot of like slight branches off of the main one. So like on the, let me just double check one more time. On the headline and the heart, there are two different lines that are kind of, sorry, like, why am I doing it on my phone? I'm trying to like figure out how to show the camera.
No, you're good. You can show it. Yeah.
All right. So like, you see how I'm looking at like
It's
right here?
lines. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm noticing that there are some lines that are like kind of coming off of it. And so I'm wondering if this is like one of those situations in your life where, let me see. It's so weird doing it virtually because when I feel your hand, I can see it better.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. But I'm noticing that like earlier in life, there could have been like, did you have any siblings by any chance?
Yeah, I'm the oldest. I have brothers.
So, being the oldest of like how many brothers?
I grew up with two of them, and one didn't come into my life until high school.
Okay, I see. So having that, I'm wondering if like right around when high school happened, like you kind of became like the second mom. And so like part of your growth when it comes to your heart and your head, it's like even though you want it, because there is like a connection in between these two lines, it's kind of like a bridge where you had to, whether you liked it or not, you kind of had to be that parent for your little brother. And it's not that like it started off as resentment, but it wasn't like, I hate you. It was more like, I have to do things. I have to get my shit done, but I love you. And it really bothers me that I have to do this. And so with that, there's like different lines that branch off. And so there's like this consistent, like, okay, well, what if I just didn't do, like, what if I didn't end up like helping them out like they wanted me to? What if I ended up doing it in a way where it's like, what if I still did what I wanted to do and hung out with my friends instead? And then if you did, it's like, oh fuck, like I'm gonna get my ass kicked. It's like one of those things, right? And then let's look at, let me look at the palm again. So I'm noticing that your palm is like larger and then you have like longer, and then you have the fingers that are a little bit shorter. So that's kind of an indication of like an earth element, which, you know, which kind of tracks with the Taurus sign. So having that, and then what else is there? The fingers are a little bit thicker too, which is also, I'm wondering if you have some fire in your chart. I'm kind of getting a little bit of like, do you have any fire in your chart actually?
I mean, so I'm a Taurus sun, Capricorn rising, and Aquarius moon. And then
What's your Mars in?
let me see. My Mars is Taurus in the 5th house.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna look.
I have a lot of I feel I have a lot of Sagittarius.
Yeah.
More than and I have a lot of Taurus too. Because my Mercury is in Taurus, my Mars is in Taurus.
What's your Jupiter in?
My IC is in Taurus, and my Chiron is in Taurus. My Jupiter is Sagittarius in the 12th house.
Okay. Because I don't know if you could see it, but you see how there is like a cross right underneath your pointer finger?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the
What's that
Jupiter. That's Jupiter.
Oh wow, okay.
And so I was noticing that your pointer finger is like kind of, and I'm not trying to sound weird, it's like thicker. Because if you have thicker fingers, it's like it signifies like fire element too. But then also having earth element is very like, it's very stern in the forward motion.
Okay.
Now I'm going to look at your lifeline. And so your lifeline is, if I can do this correctly, it's right here.
Okay.
Yeah. And so by the way, I'm looking at your left hand, which is the cards that were handed to you. And so when we look at the lifeline, it kind of starts off very frail and kind of thin, right? I'm wondering if did you have any like health issues growing up? Or if you have any like health issues like early on in your like between childhood and like your 20s?
I mean, I've always been overweight. Like I've always been, you know, like a bigger girl. So yeah, I mean, I've always struggled with my weight. And then like I started my health journey. It wasn't until my later 20s though when I started.
Which is interesting because like your line of fate kind of like sort of connects with it in a way. Like the line of fate, it's like they're sort of parallel. So the line of fate being parallel to your lifeline is kind of like there is this stagnancy that starts, and then by the later 20s, I can see that there's like lines in between here that are kind of like branched off, like, okay, this is the start of the journey. And so then there's probably a moment where you probably had to like kind of sit back on this one and be like, wait, I can't do this anymore. Like I need to take a break. And then it's like, oh God, I feel like I relapsed. But it's like whenever there is a moment of like setting back, it's kind of like it's both a feeling of defeat, but then I'm also getting this energy of like cynicism, like being cynical. Let's see what else. How many kids do you have? I'm seeing 2.
I don't have.
You don't have any kids. Do you have any pets?
I have a dog.
Because I like to look at the lines here, because there are lines here on the palms. And my dad would tell me growing up, like, oh, you're gonna have 2 kids. And I'm like, am I really gonna have 2 kids? I ended up having 2 cats.
Okay.
And so they were my kids.
Yeah.
But it can also be synonymous with the line of marriage too, where you could have more than one marriage.
And I've been divorced, so that makes sense.
Interesting. Now let's look at the right hand. Ooh. Hold on. You don't mind that we go into detail about your love life, do we?
No, please. Please. This is what I'm waiting for.
You were waiting for that one?
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like the divorce was meant to happen because there's like someone better coming for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Share more. Please share
So,
more.
okay, so on the left hand, what I'm seeing is like there was sort of like the line that goes up towards the in between the
That's
middle and like the pointer finger.
okay.
Your
Yeah,
left hand. And so
yeah.
there's like that little branch that's kind of like ticked off. But then
The
there's
upper line?
also,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Mhm.
so I'm wondering if like this, did this divorce happen in the last 5 years at all? Or was this longer?
It
More
was
recent?
2016. That
2016.
would have been
How many years ago was that?
7 years ago.
What year are we in?
18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it'll be 8 years in October, technically.
Okay. Okay. I'm also learning about like which digit means like which 10th year.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, cool. So, what I'm noticing is that towards like the divorce time, there was like, and I'm not saying that you might have met somebody, but there could have been moments where like you looked at another married couple and you're like, I should be living like that. Why am I looking at like there was a moment of reflection where it's like I'm not actually very like happy with where this is going. And so perhaps there were moments where it's like um, whether it's infidelity or whether it's another situation, there was most likely an event that kind of like confirmed this like inner doubt or this inner feeling of like, I don't think this is meant to be anymore. Where it's like, this is the deciding factor where I need to say goodbye now. And so, unfortunately, when it's on the left hand, it's kind of like, oh, these are the cards that are dealt to you, right? But then when you look at your right hand, it's kind of like sort of disconnected where it's like on the outside, you might not have shown that you were very like, you know, like on the outward, you weren't showing just how much it was actually like so close to your heart, where it's sort of like a level of like protection, where it's like, I have to guard myself so that you don't see just how much you actually hurt me. And so
Right.
there is that level of like having to like detach first, divorce after. Detach first,
That's what I did. That's what I did.
disconnect. Yeah.
That's exactly divorce. Yeah.
But now there is more luck that comes with that because now you know what you want. Now you know what you like. Now you can welcome in more energy that connects with you better. But I'm seeing that there's that disconnect with like, I'm noticing that your right hand has like thicker lines than like your left hand. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Like your left hand, yeah, like your left hand has a lot of like different lines branched off. Also, yeah.
Lines though. Yeah, because there's like 4 distinct lines on my right hand, I believe.
And then yours has like, there's one that kind of starts from like where your palm is. Oh, question, by the way, about your family. Is your family's influence on who you like were with romantically, like, is that kind of what like drove you to divorcing? Did they want you to be with someone like them, or were you with someone who was completely like opposite to what your family was like wanting you to be with? Like, how influential is your family in your love life?
I mean, they're not very influential at all.
Okay.
I mean, they didn't really care for my ex-husband, so that was probably it. But I mean, yeah, they just weren't, he just wasn't, and people didn't think he was the right person for me, right?
Girl.
Yeah.
Girl. Hold on. Okay,
It was
yeah.
very different than what I'm used
Yeah,
to.
let me show you some. Let me show you some. So you see how like the lines are here? Like
Yeah.
where it kind of starts going out like outward like that.
Yeah.
So this is kind of more closer to the influence of your family. And
Okay.
so if there's no like your family's influence is very important because it's written in your palms. And take that with what you will. It could either be a positive influence or a negative influence. But I've noticed that most folks who have like Taurus, especially like close to their, like if they have like Taurus IC, their family is going to know what's really good for them because they grew up knowing like, okay, first, yes, you are the oldest daughter. And second, you are the only daughter in a house of boys, right? So it's like what you say is gonna stick. Sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it does. In this case, it does stick because who else did they have to answer to? If mom was too busy to discipline the kids, who was going to discipline them next?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you have that upper hand. And it's not like you're going to have that getting taken away from you. Hello, you're a Taurus.
Yeah.
So having that family backing you and being like, okay, you know what? I don't think that you should be with this person. Maybe listen to what they're saying. Because seeing that you have that line kind of close towards like this area of your hand, you have that line kind of going like this, kind of going towards that and going closer to the pinky shows like a Mercury line as well. So Mercury is also about communication. It's also about listening to what your parents have to actually say about your partners. So if your partners, if your parents don't approve of the partner, there could be a reason why.
Yeah. Okay.
So now I'm going to look at your right hand and see how it played out. And so the lines here are a lot stronger on the outside, right?
Yeah.
So masculine side is a lot more like people will notice the masculine energies that come with it, how you, which step you take forward and all that. And so it's interesting because you don't show people how much you're actually internalizing things. No one needs to know that. To some people, like the classic example I like to give about Taurus energy is that people always think that Taurus is like, just feed me and give me what I like and I'm fine. But people don't also realize that like Taurus is so much more than that. Taurus is also about the quality of things, the quality of a good conversation, the quality of how you approach things, how you have that genuine connection with somebody. Sure, good food is nice. We can go to a fancy restaurant, but is the quality of the food good? Am I getting good service? Are people going to treat me with respect and value me and for what I have to offer? That's Taurus energy. And so outwardly, that's like what you're going to be showing is like, value me or don't talk to me. Internally, it's like asking all of those questions. Do I feel valued? Do I feel like I'm being listened to? Am I actually enjoying this? The left hand has all of those lines, but the right hand is like, talk to me nicely or don't talk to me at all.
Right.
And then
because especially being a projector, I need that depth, that conversation,
you need people to ask you the questions and ask what you think about it. Your opinion is very valuable.
To be recognized and valued, right? Yeah.
Which also shows in the marriage that they didn't value as much as you should have been.
Yeah, not at all.
But I am intrigued by how on your right hand, there was kind of like early childhood where your parents were like, are your parents together?
Yeah.
And were you very like, how did you feel about your parents as a couple?
I mean, they've had their issues as any other, but they've always worked themselves out and find solutions and grown through it,
Yeah.
So it's made them stronger as a couple,
So seeing that influence is showing how you value relationships too. Where it's like, and that's not just like looking in palmistry at this point, this is like in general and psychologically too, is that the relationship we grow up seeing is how we also view our like romantic relationships in the future. Like if you grow up in a broken household, like, or if your parents had fought all the time, there's like a little more apprehension when it comes to relationships. But when you grow up with your parents who like, yes, they do have their problems, but they're able to solve them and still treat each other with respect, you have like a more elevated and more like I wouldn't say advanced, but like actually more like healthier way of seeing your relationships, which is also, and now we're going back into the palm, is why I'm seeing that with relationships, it was a little easier for you to navigate because relationships came naturally to you. And so seeing how your relationships around you were thriving, you were able to apply that logic and that lifestyle into your current relationships. And unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't always help because we end up being with people who aren't always good for us. And so now we kind of look at how with the headline, it sounds kind of funny to say the headline, the line of the head is like not as strong as the line of the heart, because the heart is what is your desire. The heart is how you make your decisions. It's how you operate. So when you operate from a place of love, you don't look at the challenges with like fear. You look at the challenges with like, oh, I know we got this. I grew up seeing my parents go through this. If you and I have differences, we can work through them. But then that you don't realize like, oh wait, the difference is that I value you and you don't value me. And then also going into how, did you have like 3 really significant relationships in your life, like romantically?
Yeah, I guess you could say, I mean, because I haven't been in a lot of relationships, so yeah, it's technically been 3, like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I'm seeing 3 branches, and I'm wondering if like 2 of those relationships were like kind of connected in a way, where it's like whether you met them through your partner or you met them like in a similar space, like maybe the same school or maybe the same like social group. It could also be like introduced by like a group of friends. Does that track at all, or?
I was introduced to my ex-husband through a mutual friend.
Okay.
That's how
Okay.
but none of the other men would have been connected in any way.
Okay. Okay. This is gonna be a really awkward question, but are you straight?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I was like,
Does it say
okay.
otherwise?
No, I don't know. I can't read that part in palms. I usually just ask the person. I mean, you can tell with how they manicure their fingers.
Oh yeah? Yeah.
That's one way to tell if they're gay.
Uh,
Let's see. What else do I have? I really wish, this is going to sound really weird, but I really wish I was holding your hand so I can feel it.
I know you can feel my energy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can feel your energy virtually too, which I really like. It feels very comforting.
Yeah.
What did you say your Venus was in again?
My Venus is in Gemini in the 6th house. Why?
I get it now.
What? What
I
do you
get it
mean?
now. The reason why, in terms of like relationships, like whenever there are challenges in relationships, like Gemini Venus loves them because it's like, it's kind of like a playground.
The challenge in relationships?
Yeah, it's a playground because it's like, oh, let's play around with this. Like, and then there's also this like playful banter that's really fun. I've noticed that a lot of like Taurus placements or Tauruses who have like Gemini placements, it's so funny to me because it's like they have this like very stable persona, right? They're very stable, but the way that they communicate is they're like all over the place, but they're still rooted in one.
Yeah.
And so like I'm wondering if like your relationships, like whenever there were challenges, if that's like what you like the challenges were like communication styles. And another question, do
And
they
learning
trigger?
through them, really, like learning through the challenges have
Yeah,
like,
learning through the challenges. Gemini is known to be the student who researches. So it's
yeah.
like you're learning how to communicate with people, but just because you're learning doesn't always mean that you're being like seen in the way that you would like to be seen. Are they providing you like material for you to study that you feel excited about? Or are they providing like study material that you're like, oh, again? Did I not learn the first time?
Right.
Okay. Enough about Venus now. Now let's look into luck and fortune. Do you feel like you had like how would you compare your upbringing versus like your current lifestyle in terms of luck? Do you feel like now you can relax more, or do you feel like you relaxed a lot earlier on and you have to work more now?
Oh no, I feel like I can relax more now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely gone from my masculine to being in my feminine since the pandemic, and it's just been totally different life. Tremendously. So yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that. I've
Mhm.
noticed that earlier there were a lot of like up here, there's a
Mhm.
lot of like branches off.
Yeah, the little
And
ones. Yeah.
yeah, the little ones are kind of branching off, and it kind of feels like whenever like the energy that I'm getting is like, can I just fucking chill for a second? But then it's like the universe is like, no, you have this, and this to do. And if you don't get it done by a certain time, you're just gonna be stressed and uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And you're not gonna have a great time until you get it done. And you're like, I'm tired though.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like a lot of the energy I'm getting. Like what I'm seeing is like there's everything is moving around you and you're like, do I have to always thrive in chaos? I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then moving forward, I'm seeing that like there is like less lines, but it's just like very calm. It feels like because there's no like multiple lines branching off, it feels like there's more like
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have to do everything. I can just breathe.
Mhm.
I can
Instead of
listen to what I'm
doing, I
doing.
can just be, basically.
Hmm.
Feel.
And then looking at your right hand, like, I really love looking at your right hand, to be honest, because it's like I can see the lines a lot better.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry that it's so much scatter in your mind.
No, you're good.
Um, but I like seeing that the branches are kind of like there's a parallel life. I wonder if like, do you have, this is such a personal question. Do you have multiple streams of income?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
do.
I can see that.
Mhm.
I can see that you have more than one stream of income, but I can also see that you know how to like utilize it and that everything is intertwined in a way that like intertwined, not like in terms of like the same bank account, like if it's a business versus personal checking, like it's there's a difference between that.
Mhm.
You've got your finances.
Yeah.
You know how to handle that shit. That's
Yeah.
what I'm seeing. But I'm also seeing that like there is like, but I just want to spend a little sweet treat here and there. Just a little
Oh
bit.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because we love doing that. The different streams are also very helpful so that you can live comfortably and actually do the things that you feel more are like, I feel the drive to do them. You struggled a lot growing up, but it paid off.
Yeah.
Um, do you know what your Saturn is in? I'm very curious.
Scorpio in the 11th house.
Are you 1981 or 80 or 1980?
83.
You're 83? My sister's 83.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. When is your birthday?
May 4th.
May the fourth be with you.
Yeah. I'm making connections in my mind, don't worry.
Okay. I will.
So Scorpio in the 11th house. You said you had a Cap rising.
Yep.
Okay. It's all making sense now. So Cap risings, fun fact, and this is kind of a branch, not really like palmistry, but more astrology. Cap risings tend to have a very rough upbringing, and they kind of have this very strong like paternal influence in their life. Whether that means the absence of their father was very strong, or their father's presence was so intense that like they had to kind of live under their father's shadow. Um, and sometimes that can also mean like your father's like it could either be your father's successes or it could also be your father's failures. Um, and then, but then also seeing that being connected with money too is that when there's like this masculine wound that's being healed, excuse me, or going through the healing process, then you're able to kind of work through the financial wounds. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where the multiple streams of income are also kind of questioned. And that's where I bring that bridge to palmistry again.
Yeah.
Um, I'm
love that.
also curious, between your ring and your pinky finger on your right hand, I'm
Mhm.
seeing that there's like a bunch of like woven mini lines
Mhm.
that kind of go into your headline.
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant your heart
Yeah.
line.
Mhm.
So
You're talking on my
the
right hand?
yes,
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
wait, yes, your right hand. I had to double check. So I'm noticing that this is in between Venus and Mercury. And so Venus being in Gemini ruled by a Mercury, like because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, your Venus being in Gemini, seeing those two connected, I'm wondering if there's like it's kind of weird, but it's like the pinky promise of relationships. Like the value of a pinky promise is is something that will always be like close to your heart in a way. And that means like, and when I think of pinky promises, I'm thinking of like, you have my word, you have my trust, I'm not
Mhm.
going to let you down.
Right.
The three things that mean a lot.
Yeah.
And it's also very close to where those streams of income come from too. And I'm wondering if that's connected with like your Venus with yourself, your relationship with yourself. So when you heal that relationship with self, that's how you also heal your wounds with money, your wounds with relationships, your wounds with the people around you. Because remember, the right hand is also your outward life. It's also the connections that you make and that you build.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact, on your right thumb, there's a small mole.
Yeah.
My dad told me this growing up, that if you have a mole on your hand or like around your palm, it actually is promised fame. And not just fame, but I mean like good money fame. Like the kind of promise like fortune that's like you're gonna make it big in terms of money. Like you don't have to worry about it anymore.
I feel it. I feel it. I feel like it's coming. It's just a matter of time and when, but I do feel that.
I love that. That makes me happy for you. Do
Mhm.
you by any chance have any other questions for me about your palms? Is there anything that I have not covered that I can cover for you?
Um,
Oh, can you do this with your thumbs for me? Yeah.
like like this.
Yeah, see how far back they bend? Mm. So as stubborn as you seem to come off, you tend to be very like, how many times have you been taken advantage of?
Probably a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone's like, oh, I can break through her. It's cool.
Mhm.
Maybe if I'm nice to her, she can do it for me. But it's
Right.
like, yeah, because
Me, you know.
yeah, like the dexterity of like your fingers, especially your thumb, is synonymous with like how like flexible you are as a person, like in terms of like leniency. If you're very flexible, then it's like you have that you may be taken advantage of. Not
Mhm.
that it's a higher susceptibility, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, Another thing about palmistry as a whole, when I like to look at people's hands, I like to see like, is their skin soft? What is their like, do they have rough edges? Like, what is the feel of their skin like? And that can also determine like how you approach life as a whole. So like a lot of people who have like blisters on their hands, maybe from going to the gym a lot, maybe by going to like doing a lot of hands-on work, that can also mean like, okay, so this person isn't afraid to like get down and dirty in order to get shit done.
Mhm.
But that's like that's not just palmistry, that's everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Any questions? Thank
No, you did amazing. I mean, I think it's great. I love everything you touched on, and it definitely resonated for sure.
you.
Thank you. That was a great reading.
Oh, thanks.
And it's also everything like really, it really does correlate with astrology, which is it's just incredible because there's so many different modalities that just use astrology, which is incredible, and it just is so mind blowing. And I just love it. I love astrology and what it's about and what it does for us. You
Oh,
know.
yeah, right. I love that. I love how much astrology has like not just permeated, but kind of just like has been into every single modality of like healing, because it connects with the different elements. It connects with the different parts of like areas of our lives. There's so many ways to utilize astrology that most pop astrologers on like TikTok or something wouldn't really like kind of go into. And I'm not, knocking on it or anything like that. Um, there's just like a level to astrology that is so much more than compatibility and like what your weekly horoscope is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like your horoscope is just a little tiny piece of it. You don't realize
Exactly.
how much there is to it,
Totally.
Yeah. I think that astrology, what I've learned about astrology is that we're really like these beings that have been customized, in a sense to be who, like all these parts of us that make us one whole. That's how I see astrology. It's there's just nobody else on this planet that is exactly like you, that will be exactly like you, how everything correlates and how it intertwines with everything like palmistry, how it intertwines with human design. Because I've had my human design read and I've had my birth chart read too, and it's amazing how almost if I put them on top of each other, they will be very much alike, right? They will be very similar in all these areas.
Absolutely.
Two different people did them. One person was in Japan and one person was here. There's no way they could have known what the other one had told me. And it's just amazing that I was hearing the same things, right? Which really validates for me that, yeah, we are these beings who are so carefully made, and created to be our own persona.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I love it. It's just all so amazing. And I'm
Yes.
so glad that you're doing what you're doing because so many people don't know about palmistry and it's such a beautiful thing and it's so unique. I mean, just to learn about yourself in many different ways and, through your hands and through the
Yeah.
energy, it's just so beautiful,
It's
to be
funny because your
learn.
palms, like the lines will never be the same. Like they'll always change throughout life.
Oh,
Oh,
do they?
oh
Mine's
that.
Yeah.
actually
Yeah, they're not set in stone. Like what you see in your palms today, if you look at your palms like 20 years from now, like the lines could be deeper or they could be like lighter. It really just depends because this is just like based on the current energies right now, where every step that you've taken up until this moment in your life. And we don't know when we're going to die, except for my great grandpa for some reason. But like, if you don't know when you're going to die, like you don't know that now is like just half of your life, like you've only lived half of it. And like, when they say, oh, I'm having a midlife crisis, it's like midlife crisis in like that's according to the average lifespan of what,
yeah,
70, 65? Like, what does that mean? So like based off of where you're at right now, like you still have a long way to go. You probably
right,
haven't even reached that like the half, like the midlife point yet. And I hope you haven't. So it's like 30 years from now, what are your palms gonna look like?
Mhm.
right. Yeah. No, that's amazing. I didn't know they changed, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I
yeah.
didn't know that either. Cool. Well, Mariam, thank you so much for being here. Lastly, the question I want to ask you is, in 5 years, where do you see yourself? What are your manifestation goals, dreams? What is it that you see yourself doing in 5 years from now?
Ooh, that's a good question. 5 years from now, in terms of what I'm doing now, I see myself being able to teach this on a global scale. I see myself being able to help not just like the community around me physically, but all across the world.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean this with like, the most like in the most humble way possible. Like, I know that I have a gift to share. And whether that gift is to help teach people to read on their own, or if that's to kind of like help guide people to knowing that they're so much more capable of what they think they are. Like, I want to be able to reach that message and share that message. I also want to be like Like I aspire every day to align with myself. And when I'm out of alignment and it just feels it doesn't feel right. It feels icky. So I want to be able to wake up and not have to worry about being out of alignment. I guess that's what I mean. 5 years from now, I'm not worried about that anymore. And also just pass my Saturn return and just be alive and happy.
Yes.
I agree.
I love that. Yeah, and I definitely feel like what you're doing is incredible, and I think it's an amazing gift. So for you to be able to just share it with, the world is amazing. And for you to already just share it with your community and, San Mateo is amazing, but more people need to share, need to hear your voice and see your light. So it's going to happen and it's going to be amazing when you do. So
Thank you, Corrine. I really appreciate that.
yeah.
You already are an amazing being. Your auras just magnifies that, you have such a calm presence to your energy. At least that's the way I feel.
It means a lot to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, at least when I come into contact with people, that's what I look for, right? Or to feel like, oh, like this is so awesome. It's so chill, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
and
you don't want to be around people that are chaotic. You want to be around people who are at peace.
at least at this point in my life, that's what I'm looking for.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I had so much fun. I think it was fascinating how you were able to read her palm, especially virtually. That's crazy. First time ever doing it virtually.
Seriously.
Was it? You've never done it
Yeah.
before?
Never done it virtually. This is the first time I've done it virtually.
Yeah. So
Great.
good job. I think you definitely nailed it. But thank you so much for honoring us with your presence on the podcast, and we look forward to seeing more of you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I
And
look forward to seeing more of you too.
let our listeners know how they can get in contact with you and if they want reading done or their palms read, or how can they.
Sure. So if you want to connect with me in person, I am at Mystic Flora Apothecary on Fridays and Saturdays for in-person readings. I have a link tree, but you could just go on mariumarcana.com. That's spelled M-A-R-I-A-M as in Mary, Arcana, A-R-C-A-N as in Nancy A.com. It will redirect you to a link tree because my website's under construction right now. And it'll show you a booking for astrology and tarot. If you want to do palmistry, either in person or virtually, you could also DM me. There is a option on my link tree to message me via Instagram. So.
And your
Okay.
Instagram handle?
Mm-hmm.
What is?
Oh, my Instagram handle. Sorry, my Instagram handle is Marium_Arcana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Yay. Well, this has been wonderful. I'm so just, my heart is so full with all the information you gave me, and I just love it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
It is 333 right now, ladies.
Oh, shit.
Okay, here we go.
Well, that being said, it was great to connect with you, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
Yes, thank you so much.
And enjoy the rest of your trip. Enjoy the rest of your trip.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will. Bye.
Bye.